Hi guys, I am hello. I'm Reuben Green. I am a radio presenter, label founder on Groove School Records. I'm a radio presenter on Jazz FM and Brixton Radio.
I'm Nathanael Williams. I run Mocco and Jumbie and also Colour Factory in Hackney Wick, and I'm also a member of the group The Closet Rise.
Hi, my name is Sheba Q. I'm a promoter, an educator. I actually teach maths. I'm a DJ, vinyl enthusiast, multi-genre artist, and yeah, I'm very happy to be here with Egwú.
Yeah. Hello guys. Yinka Bernie, one of the co-founders for Egwú Records, and I'll just say I do everything around sound. Yeah, and I collect records. Shout out to everyone for coming. Hope you have a good time.
Yeah, I guess the idea of this talk or the premise behind it is really exploring the idea of physical, which obviously means like collecting records, playing records, listening to records, and like I guess I'd like to start with a very simple question, but I'd love to know what your favorite record is.
It's a big question, man. I feel like you're gonna get judged immediately. I don't have a consistent answer, but at the moment there's a vinyl from my mum called by an artist called Sharik, and the song is called Just Cool. I love that tune. It's from the 80s, and I guess it's because it's nostalgic, reminds me of my mum, and it's a tune.
Um, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is what my first record was. And I think that's the beauty of records because you can remember the first one. So when I was, actually, it was my first CD as well. When I was like 12 or something, my uncle bought me God's Son by Nas. Yeah, because of the tune, I know I can. So, like, he wanted to, encourage me, I guess. And then, like, years later, my friends for like one of my birthdays then bought me that record. And that was my first record. So, not necessarily my favorite, but like has probably the most memory towards it. Yeah.
Peaceful.
Yeah, shout out to Shiba for that answer because I was thinking of what I would say. I think it changes, man. I think it changes after like I collect like a new stack or I go somewhere and collect a few. But right now, I would say, uh, damn, I think is shit. I think Ngozi Family. It's like a Zamrock record. Actually, someone played it at the last event we had in Moko, and I Shazammed it. Who played it? You played it? Yeah,
Shout out
yeah.
Kyle.
Bruh, it was stuck in my head, man. And luckily I found it recently. So I'll say that's my favorite record right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think favorite. I mean, usually I find it hard to answer the question like your favorite band, what's your favorite record, because it does change, all the time, as you said. I feel like it's like what am I listening to right now, and what the record that I don't usually find this type of music on vinyl, and I think the vinyl that I've been enjoying listening to a lot right now is "Damn" by Kendrick Lamar, and I've been just bumping that a lot at Jumbie. So that's me right now. That's what I'm listening to right now.
Yeah, that's how you feel. Yeah, it's like really interesting because my next question was going to be about like the idea of like whether there's a sentimental angle to like collecting music, but it's really obviously actually the record that we were literally playing just now, "Singing for the People" by Ebenezer Obey is such an amazing record. Like proper Yoruba. My dad when I listened to. But yeah, I think like what we also really interesting is the fact that the majority of the records we all referenced are records of the past. This is music that came before us. So I guess it'd be interesting to like I guess hear a perspective in terms of music now and like how you consume music, and are you consuming music that's been like being released now through records? Are you like buying records of like music that's coming out now?
Everyone looks at me, man. But yeah. 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 But there's a bit of sentiment too. Just because we sell records as well. So for us, like the primary thing with Egu was a lot of record stores and a lot of like businesses around vinyl. I noticed it's mostly like old music. It's always old music. It's always like music from the past. And for us, we were like, nah, let's bring it back to, because me, I wasn't born in like the 80s or whatever. So like what I can relate to, also music from like the 2000s. So one of the primary thing for Egwú when we started was like we started collecting records from like guys that people we know. So I would say, yo, what's the question, man? I was just going, man.
Test.
uh,
My question was like I guess simple question. Music that's being released now, do you like buy it? So you buy it on records now, and like, so do you feel like that nostalgia is still there? Do you think like when you listen to like, is there a difference between like when you listen to like, let's say a record from like the 80s or 90s versus like when you listen to a record that came out, let's say in 2024?
For me, yeah. I mean, I think the way the songs are mixed, there's like, I don't know if you collect records from like back in the day, you hear like the scratch, right?
Yeah, the crackle.
But like right now, not really, not really. You know,
They're just pressing the word.
yeah, it's just like you're listening to Spotify or whatever. But for me, what I keep telling people is like, like if like Kanye like puts out an album, the what I need to, a question I have to answer to a lot of times, when people are like, oh, who collects vinyls? What's that? What are you guys doing? Me, I'm just like, I feel like the interaction is different. I think it's just like buying merchandise from like an artist, right? And you're buying like a physical copy of an album. So like I feel like that's the connection. Like outside of like how it sounds, when it sounds this way,
Yeah.
I think that's it.
And I guess like Sheba, for you, like as a DJ, like you play a lot of like, I'd say like a varied range, but you also play like a lot of like electronic music. And I guess like, does that like do you feel like impacted by that? Like in terms of, like, do you also like aim to like collect those records and like you still have that like nostalgic feeling? Let's say like if you played like a 90s record, for instance.
I think what's really cool about, so I actually started off, I guess, first collecting hip hop and then garage, and then I was exposed to drum and bass, but I thought the music was too fast. But then slowly, then I started collecting my own like jungle, and that's primarily, if I get booked to play, it'll be for that. And so the good thing is that you've got old school jungle, and then you've got jungle that's coming out now. And so similarly to like what you said, when you decide to buy a record of someone that you could chat to on Instagram or something, you are intentionally supporting them more than, just sharing, I don't know, the name of the song on your story or something. And so definitely when it comes to supporting artists now, like, I feel proud that I can say, yeah, like I've got this vinyl. Maybe even if I go to an event, actually, no, I do that. I will, and I know that they're playing, I'll ask them to sign it, whether they're famous or not. But again, just that point of like, I've got their physical thing, and they've signed it. And then also the genre, like genres obviously spanned from before I was born. And so when it comes to playing old school tunes, like you said, the crackle, they're just knowing that, I've bought this, I don't know, somewhere, like whose hands has it passed through, like almost making that story. So those are the two sides to it.
Yeah. And I guess like, again, for you, like Nathanael, it'd be interesting to, I guess, think about the idea of place and like, so like there's a record by Fela Kuti, and it's called like Live, and it's with Ginger Baker, and they recorded it live. I think I can't remember what venue it was, but they literally recorded it live, and you literally hear the people like screaming at certain points of the record. And I guess like in terms of like Jumbi, like as Jumbi's like vinyl only, you can only play vinyl in there. I guess like is there a sentiment that you think that creates like when you create that type of environment?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, with Jumbi, if anyone hasn't been, we're sort of a Caribbean diasporic focused music bar, sort of rum bar, but we only have one vinyl deck in there. And when we first set it up, we were trying to sort of, we were inspired by David Mancuso, the loft, and playing records from the start to the finish. And it arcs back to a reggae culture where there'd just be one deck and there'd just be one vinyl and then the silence in between. And then when we first did it, we're like, what's going to happen on Friday? Are people going to like walk out because there's silence between the record? But someone played the first record, and then after the record, people clapped. I'm like, oh, okay then. And then the next record came on, and then people whooped after. I was like, okay. And it's been that way every Friday and Saturday. And I just think that what we're doing, I think I also again run Colour Factory, which is more of a nightclub, and like 99.9% of DJs walk through with a USB, and I like to call it beat bashing. So they come up and you plug the USB in, and it's like, oh, that one's green, that one's in key. Oh, that's 120. Okay, so now I'm playing 120, and you get stuck in this beat bashing loop where you're a slave to the algorithm. But with a vinyl, and especially when you're not a slave to the BPM or the algorithm, you're fully in selector mode. So you can sit there and play an R&B tune, stop, hopefully listen to a clap, and then play a whatever song. And I think the freedom for selection, I think this is part of the fabric of what makes Jumbie that particular environment.
I'd love to hear his perspective as a journalist, as someone like who is quite committed to documenting this culture. Like, because for me, like it's like playing records invokes a sense of nostalgia, and I feel like even when like you described, even when you're like collecting like new records, like even when you play them in spaces like Jumbie, it's like I think it references like a certain way of partying, a certain way of like listening to music that people don't listen to like music anymore. I guess for use, like it'd be interesting to feel like if you think there's like a distinctive difference between maybe where you hear a DJ set or like a playlist versus when you hear like a sets that is just completely vinyl.
Yeah, there is a difference, and it's exactly what Nathanael said, which is you don't stick to one sound when you play on vinyl because you don't have to, and you don't have the technology in front of you that, like you said, limits you to a BPM. It's okay, I'm playing garage and now I'm playing disco, and you look around the room and there might be another sound that people are feeling, so you want to stay there for a while. And I think that's what makes vinyl special, is you're not limited to a sound, you move around, but also earlier we were talking about something being tangible. I've also released music on vinyl, and I've made a lot of friends, and new friendships have formed through vinyl. And I think it's because someone's buying your product and they appreciated it, and they feel like they can reach out to you and say, hey man, like I really like that, which is nice. And then conversation can spark from there. Whereas I feel like digital, nothing wrong with digital. We all love being able to have the freedom and portability of playing tunes, but it's very rare for someone to walk up to you and show you that album that you've got on your phone and say, I like your work. But if they have the physical copy, it's a conversation starter. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you reference is actually really interesting. Because right now, like vinyl's having like big resurgence, like even in terms of like music that's being released now. Like you described, like a lot of artists now are like releasing music on vinyl for the first time, where there was like a big gap where like artists were very focused on like digital sales because of streaming. As Yinka, you as an artist, like how important do you think it is for artists to like, release music on vinyl? Like, do you think it should be like there was a time, where all music was released on vinyl, and then now like majority of music is digital first, released on streaming services. But there was a time where vinyl was still essential. There was a time where majority of people still listen to records. Do you think like it's still essential now for artists to release music on vinyl, given the like how we consume music today?
100%. As an artist, me, I'd advocate for it very, very much, because I think it's just like a process that artists like they just neglect. Like even if it's not vinyls, like CDs, I feel like beyond, as I say, like beyond, because I feel like if there's the statistics now, if I even go around and ask people now, oh, they have like records. Do you have players? Most people don't have.
Hands up, hands up.
Yeah.
If you have a record player, hands up.
Oh, okay. My
Okay,
bad.
but then if you have records, hands up if you have records. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's more.
Yeah, do you get? So I feel like it's more than that. Like it's more like an extension of the project, and for a way, it's just a way for people to like. I don't know, man. Like I think, what if do people even think like what if streaming just go down? You take all your music out. Like what physical copy like leaves, like does your music like live on with like what do people have? Do you get? And I feel like for me personally, it's even out there in Nige that I'm even like, are these people crazy? Like Whiskey doesn't have like a vinyl record, like Davido doesn't have a vinyl record. They don't care about it, and I feel like even for music discovery as well, there's a lot of like vinyl parties I go for, and I just hear songs for the first time, right? Also, like stores, even stocking your records. People can find it. To be honest, for me, what even draws me to like a record first is like the cover. Like if it's dope, I buy it. Do you get? So like I feel like like people can discover your music in different ways. Revenue as well. Uh, Streaming. I made this tweet one time that was very controversial about like a streaming pays you like half it, not even up to $1, but you can sell your record for as low as $5, and you're making more than if someone streams your song once. And people went crazy, like, oh, bro, like, niggas don't care about vinyls in Lagos. Like, what are you talking about? So, for me, I think it's important, man. It's important. It's
Yeah.
important for it to live on and also for, like, experience, like, for your fans.
Yeah, because I think because I have the same frustration, like I play like predominantly African music, and like sometimes I want to play like an Ashaka record, for instance, or I want to play like music that like people describe Ashaka as like a modern Fuji artist, and I have so much Fuji that exists on records that was released before 2000, and then post 2000 it went to CDs, and now like even like there's a song I can't remember who it is, but it's a Fuji artist that like released on vinyl like predominantly, and like they too have moved to streaming services, and it feels like they're almost like alienating their core audience slightly, because like you said, the idea of music discovery, there's a different ways, different entry points to music. Sheba, I guess like again, like thinking about like the wide range of music that you play, like it'd be interesting to know like the proportion of music that you discover through records themselves versus like digging like online, because even like for me, like the music I find, like I like when I play like older music, like my entry point to that is actually the internet. It's not necessarily a record. Like I spend time going on YouTube, I spend time going on Discord. So it'd be interesting to know like what your own experience is.
So when it comes to my record collection, I would say like at least half of it is secondhand bought in person. Back in the day when I would cycle to, I don't know, Reckless Records, and make a point of looking through the £2, £1 box and seeing what I could find. And again, similarly to what you said in terms of if it looks nice, and so following on from that point of it being an extension of an artist's work, like just even from a visual perspective, right? And so maybe even there's a resurgence in vinyl because people want that again. I even think about how on Spotify now you've got the moving image. Does that mean that they're saying that okay, we are emphasizing the visuals, of it again? Maybe it could be that. So yeah, half of my collection I would say is secondhand, and I would say that not so much from digging online. And I think that's what I've found as well. Like I like being in person when I'm looking for things. It's never really been my style, because even I recognize like DJs who are digital DJs who make a point of finding edits on SoundCloud, and that's just how they enjoy doing it. And so and I think it's important as well to acknowledge that yes, it's nice to be able to collect things, but of course digital is because it's more accessible. It's like it's more accessible. I think whilst having this conversation, perhaps later we'll touch on like almost the bourgeoisie element of being like, I collect records. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Like I say, even with the digital, people you can widely disseminate digital, but even with NFTs, I think this is like a perfect example of someone getting something that's digital, but having to have that authenticity and that uniqueness and the ownership of something even digital. So I think there's always like a pull and an urge for people to own something that belongs to them.
Yeah, I guess just going back to Sheba, where you mentioned actually, because like the reason why I personally believe digital is more popular is because of what you described. It's more accessible. People that collect records come from majority of the time a privileged background. Again, like Nathanael, I guess it's really tough. Like I had a where I was playing at a listening bar, and I was thinking I'm playing predominantly African music, but I'm playing this in a space where the people where these are from these cultures, they can't even access it. Like drinks are like £16. Like the venue, the speakers are they'll be the most beautiful speakers you've ever seen, the perfect sound, but like like the majority of the crowd that are in this space. You operate 2 venues in Peckham and Tottenham areas where ideally where the still underrepresented minority exist? Like, do you still feel that you can access that community? Do you still feel like you reach that community?
That's open a can of worms here. Firstly, the punch and jump is £8.50. It's a tough one. I think the access to thankfully, access to music production has become way cheaper for everyone. To get a laptop and to get Logic or Ableton, whatever it is, I think it's amazing. And I know some people are like, oh, everyone's making music now, everyone's a DJ now. I think it's an amazing thing. There are huge barriers to being able to spend £10-20 on a vinyl record and build up your collection. To have a big tens of thousands of pounds to have a big collection. In terms of being there and the sort of DJs that we are able to have on, I mean, it's no secret that you're more likely to less likely to be able to afford records if you're part of from a diaspora. It's no secret. I feel that the more that we talk about vinyl records, the more that we have beautiful events where we celebrate all the amazing reggae sevens that came out during the 60s and 70s and all the same. I think this is just talking about them and playing them when we get our hands on them. I think that's good enough. And yeah.
I guess like just staying on that point of accessibility, Reuben. Like, how else, I guess, trying to feel more optimistic, how else can we make this more accessible? Like, you do radio, and I find radio to be perhaps the most accessible format of listening to records, because at least you get to play it on airwave versus inside a venue, unless you're playing in Jumbie, that is. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know how else, like, what other ways you feel like we can make this culture, I guess, more accessible.
I think it already exists. There's a few people here who go to open decks, I'm sure, and it's nice. You bring your records with you, and it's very social. And it's someone you've never met before who's played a song that you really like. As soon as they finish, you're going to talk to them, because if someone likes the same music as you, you probably have a million things in common, and you just go off on a tangent. So I think it can be a form of friendship, a form of socializing, which makes it accessible. I also think you don't have to look at it as buying new, expensive vinyl. If you do crate digging, you go to record fairs, you can get something for like £1, especially abroad where the guy has no clue what he's selling. It's amazing. I'm like, wow, £2, thanks, bro.
Taking advantage.
Yeah. So it is accessible. I don't think a question of making it more accessible. I think it's a case of just letting culture do its thing. I think it's coming back at the moment for many reasons, like we spoke about earlier. It's tangible, supporting artists. I read something quite interesting, because I knew I was doing this today, about digital burnout. And it feels like people are wanting to go backwards, wanting to go to have things that are physical. So again, culture's doing its thing. And I think vinyl is coming back because we want it to.
I think staying on the theme of resurgence, like, I'd love to know, like, what your motivations are, because like you said, there's a resurgence of not only people that play vinyl, but spaces that are vinyl exclusive. People are buying records now that are being released on vinyl. But it feels like everyone's introduction is from different points. I'll use myself an example. My biggest introduction to vinyl was because I live in the UK, but I spent a lot of time in Nigeria growing up, and I feel very distant to my culture. And when I play these records, when I hold these records, when I see places I've been to, when it feels like I'm home sometimes, And that sense of that feeling of home is like, it's something that transcends even when I listen. I don't know, even when I listen to like Obey Digitally, I don't feel it. But like even just now, I had like the jitters, man. Like just listening to singing to my people. So it'd be interesting to know like what else motivates you to continue to collect records, continue to play records.
I think I was looking up the 5 reasons why humans indulge in hobbies. Like, and it's because them ones, sometimes we're trying to overcomplicate things, but it's a hobby, right? So it's like for creativity, money, fitness, to learn, and I can't remember the other one. Maybe it's to socialize. And I was thinking, like, if you were to look at fitness from like I guess like mental fitness point of view, kind of Sudoku, because like especially when you mix vinyl, it's, it can kind of be like that. So you could almost say like collecting vinyls like ticks all of those reasons, like for having a hobby. So that's, definitely one
Well,
motivation.
psychological. man.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And then also just I love the fact that when I play vinyl, it means that both my hands are occupied, so I'm not going to be on my phone at the same time. Like, unfortunately, we've got to that stage where I actually need to do something else so that I'm not on my phone 24/7, And then also, I think really the importance of being adults, but doing things, not just for money, but just because I enjoy it. And so, yeah, vinyl and collecting it and everything around it is just one way of doing that.
Yeah, for me, it's I mean, cause me is it's from like a business perspective and also like community building. Cause in
Business,
Nige,
yeah, business.
yeah, in Nige is very like I come to London and I see you guys playing records, you're enjoying records. I'm like, bruh, people don't give a fuck, man. Like they don't give a fuck in Nige, man. So for me, it's just saying that, oh, like this is like open markets, right? There's so much to do.
It's an opportunity.
Yeah, like too much opportunity, like in Nigeria, in Ghana, West Africa, sure. So for me, it's just like, yeah, it's very easy to build a community here because the first Egwú event we had last year was in my crib, in my living room, and I saw people pulling up, people were excited, man. That time I just bought my like deck, so I was just mixing from anywhere to anywhere, and people were feeling it. People wanted more. And we did the first one in this side. People pulled up. We did another one in December. A lot of people pulled up too. So for me, it's just like, yeah, there's so many angles. Like introducing artists as well, like Nigerian artists that don't care about like records. And for me, is more than, I know we see Nigerian artists like press records once in a while, but you can tell they don't care. You get like you can tell like it was a label, the label that was just like, oh, just for doing sake. I've not seen a Nigerian artist that is like, oh, like I'm signing records, pull up, you get. So for me, it's just like, yeah, this is easy now. If I build a community, so what for me is just more like, for me, I feel like every time, like with my music, with everything I do, I feel like number one is like always community. If you have a community, people always want to tap into that like easily. So for me, it's just like, oh, I can build community, forget money, forget all of that. If I like easily build a community where I know, oh, people will always pull up for my events, people would always come to the parties, people will always come to panels and all.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
I think yeah, the idea of community, but I guess like, and there's something I'd love for you to answer. It's more like there's an episode of this series called Small Axe. I don't know if anyone's watched it. Yeah, Lovers Rock. Yeah. And like that was the first I think like Nigerians, we don't have the idea. I don't think we do have the idea of like listening culture, the idea of like sitting down and listening to music. Like the idea of sitting down and listening to music is always associated with like an event or an occasion. Like you hear live music at a wedding, a funeral, a birthday party. But like outside of that, people don't really engage with this music. But when I watch Lovers Rock, the idea of a blues, like the idea of like going to someone's house, I'd love for you to like expand on like maybe how that translates to Jumbi and to Moko as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember my uncle playing records, and the way that sort of sound systems were set up, say in the 60s, 70s, and I guess 80s when I was born, is that in the house, the records shelf would be there, and it would be facing the wall. Like, it would never be like it's a colour factory at the club. We obviously set up the CDJs, and then it's sort of everyone's facing the DJ. And it's like sometimes dare I say it, it's more about the DJ than the music, But so at Jumbi, what we decided to do, and at Moko as well, we face the DJ away from the crowd, And there was a mirror at Jumbi, but I think it makes it, I think, exciting because people are waiting for that next record. It makes it not about the DJ, and it makes it much more like an authentic blues party. We're incredibly inspired by blues parties of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. We were privileged to have last year at our birthday Dennis Bevell, who is the person singing. God, I forgot the song now. What's the song? And it's Small Axe. Who's really singing it? Silly Games. Yeah. So
Yeah, Silly
yeah,
Games.
he wrote Silly Games.
Wow.
Dennis Bavell, and he came and he actually performed City Games at John B at the first birthday, which was incredible. So we're heavily inspired by it, and just to have that live, there's nothing like a house party. There's nothing like, regardless of all the venues, there's something special about it.
And then Reuben, I guess again it'd be interesting to know your own motivations, especially considering the time you put. Like I feel like I'm like a music nerd, man. Like I feel like I really obsess about music, but I've never like written about music. I've never expressed these feelings. So like it'd be interesting to know why you feel like you need to take this approach to almost go, I guess, deeper than the rest of us.
It's a good question. I think it's when you enter an industry and you see what's going on. I think for me, when I entered about 7-8 years ago, a lot of people were putting their music onto vinyl, and I was discovering artists from further afield because it was on a vinyl in a record store or being spoken about on a radio show, and I'd go and find it. Whereas digitally, yes, of course, social media means doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can find it. But I find with vinyl, there's something about discovery and that feeling. And I really wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to put music out on vinyl to help with that discovery factor. That's what I love about doing radio anyway, especially when it's with music. It's about letting people discover new sounds and people who already have discovered it and talking about it and sharing with each other. So definitely the motivation you're going to find with most of my answers is the community aspect of things, because that's what radio is about.
And staying on that point of community, my fear is always like, the idea of a trend, like the idea of like something that feels like 2 years, 3 years from now, we might not be sat here talking about records, but we'll be talking about something else that feels cool and special because it's cool and special to play records now. But I guess like just staying on that point, how do you think this community not only like can grow, because I feel like the community is growing. I see more and more people playing records, but can like maintain, like how can we ensure that this is relevant in 10 years, in 20 years?
I think the artists themselves being able to survive. So if we keep supporting the artist by keep buying the vinyl, keep buying their albums, it's going to become something that's important. It's in terms of merchandise. When you have a manager or a label, they're looking about ways in which you can make an income. Merchandise is very much at the top because you can make money from it. And I think that's a way of keeping it alive, is making sure that those who are making the music keep wanting to put it out on vinyl. And sometimes you're putting it out on vinyl not just because of money, because it's something to look back at. I grew up on vinyl because my parents collect, and a lot of the music that I discovered, I remember opening a cupboard, and obviously I was 5, so the cupboard seemed huge. And I used to see all these CDs and all these vinyls, and I was just like, it's like a library of music to find. And I think a lot of people feel that way. It's a library. It's a form of reading and discovery and finding out about an artist. Some vinyls are like double-sided, can read the information about them. I think as long as you keep putting the effort in, keep trying to make it as beautiful as possible, which you do because it's expensive to make. You're not going to do it half-heartedly. But yeah, I think the main thing is it's a form of income, and once it starts making enough money, the label will notice that and they'll keep boosting it.
And Nathanael, I guess again, still staying on that point, do you feel, I guess, more positive or anxious about like the future of the community and about like vinyl? Like how do you feel about the future?
I mean, I feel really positive. I feel really positive about it. It's a blessing for me to watch DJs now to wheel the bag or carry the bag through the doors of the venue. More often than not, for again 9.0 at clubs, it's just that little USB thing that people are carrying around. And yeah, I think it's just happening. I think it's happening more and more. More people talking about vinyl. I'm wholly positive that it's here to stay.
How do you feel, Sheba?
I think the cool thing about whenever somebody makes a record, then that means in 5, 10, or how many years' time, there will always be a secondhand record as well. So the question of like, how do we maintain? Again, when I think back to the fact that a lot of my collection is secondhand stuff, I think just by the nature of it, it means that it is a sustainable thing. And I think as well, like even there was something that you mentioned that made me draw a parallel between when you decide to buy a record and like when you decide to like get a tattoo. It's like that permanency and that commitment.
Yeah, it feels less disposable, I guess Yinka, like your perspective is different, because I feel like where Egwú is in Nigeria is like it's the first of its kind. Currently like there's no one doing what you guys are doing. I guess for me it'd be more interesting to know like how you see that growth happening, like and what are you can do to like sustain that growth in Nigeria. Particularly, I mean, here, like you can get an audience to come and listen to the records quite easily, but like in Nigeria, it's a different environment.
Yeah, for Ninja, honestly, right now it's just education, like telling people, oh, what this thing is about. Um, like Ninja is a bit different from here, man. Yeah, you guys,
Just a bit, yeah, just a tiny
yeah,
bit.
yeah, you guys like you're open to like try stuff, like. But Nige people now they will ask questions like why am I going there? What are we doing that
Stubborn.
for? So for me and for us in Egwú is just to answer the why, like why we're doing it, why it's relevant, and for like growth. For us like the big thing is festivals, like getting artists, not even like big artists like live bands, people that play in bands from West Africa, like find people that are really dope and eventually start doing festivals in Africa, like as opposed to here. So the idea is like to bring everybody here, the community here, everybody's coming to wherever we're doing the festivals, and just keep like building because it's very like we're taking our time. We're not in a rush, and like from events to events is building. People enjoy it, and yeah, and I can tell like the last events we had, my friend came to meet me. He made like two friends from one of our first events, and like they put up together for this one. So it's things like that we want,
Mm.
right? Like because the events because it's not there's no pressure at the parties. There's no pressure to like overdo. The DJs having fun, people here having fun, everyone's like getting drinks, having conversations. So for us, it's just to like keep it steady, slow, and just educate people, like why we should collect, start pressing for guys as well, records for people. We have a community, sell to the community. From there, we expand, and also beyond Egu, just how to make like vinyls sustainable as well. I think it's just more people starting their stuff, like starting things like Egu, right? Like just start your thing, like would multiply. The communities will merge. People from there will come to your own events. Will go to their own events. So that's pretty much it, man.
Yeah, because I think like the community is like so important, and like I think it's nice that we have a community of people who shared passion, shared interests. Like it's my worry is always like I never feel like that's enough to like sustain a community. Like we can all like music, but like I've met people that like music that are horrible people, for instance. like I've met people that collect records who are like terrible people, and like the problem like frankly no like I because I think like it, I'll get to the point. But like I think the issue for me is like more is like how ethical is it, and I guess this speaks more to like people that collect secondhand records or older records like myself. Like I said, I buy a lot of vintage records. I buy a lot of records that, and it's crazy. Like I buy a lot of Suku, for instance. I'm buying Suku from France. I went to a record shop in Kenya to like hear like rumba and stuff, and he's selling me house. like like it's crazy. So I guess it'd be interesting to know like how can we also make it like sustainable in terms of like the now and the present, but also like how can we ensure that like we're also like creating like a sustainable past, like we're not like leaving behind like a mess or a bad template for people to follow, because a lot of the money like they be buy like in terms of secondhand records, they never go back to the original artist, or even worse, like it's a repress or an edit, and like those royalties they're not going back. So it'd be interesting to know how we can almost like act to combat that, and I'd love to like hear your thoughts on that, Sheba, especially as a DJ.
Yeah, so kind of going to the beginning of your question, yes, there's the element of like community building, but I guess to avoid just having a room full of people who are neither here nor there, then I guess it's the intention behind. So even when you were saying, educating people on the why, I'd be interested to know. So what are you telling them? Like you said, people should collect. Talk about but why? Yeah. And then also more than that, yeah, just the intention. So like I should hope that even Egwú are looking and saying, okay, this is the demographic of people that are here today. Okay, moving forward, what do we want to do? Or I don't know. So I guess intention is key. I don't know. I can't remember the last part of your question.
It was
but that's
more
what
around
comes to
like
mind.
I guess yeah, like the first half is around like sustaining a community beyond people that just like records, but also ensuring like that it's ethical. So just like how can we also work in a way that, because like bad stuff is gonna happen. Like majority of like record election, for instance, is like producing new records harms the environment. Buying older records that aren't like from the people who like own the rights, like that money isn't going back to those labels. So how can we act in a way that's almost like combative, like almost like erode the effects of
It's
that?
giving the question of should we have used LimeWire or not. It's like that's an interesting one. I don't know if anyone wants to like
I was
jump
just gonna say reissue labels sometimes get a bad stigma, but I really appreciate them, especially as a radio presenter who's trying to play music of old. Sometimes I'm discovering songs that I would never have found if it wasn't for a reissue label. Like Analog Africa is amazing, Soundway Records, Strut, all these places are bringing music that I would never have found.
What is a reissue?
So,
like I don't know what that is.
so for example, if there was an artist, let's say K Pong from Ghana, and his music was released in the 70s, it might not be being able to be sold anymore. Maybe they only made 100 copies. So a reissue label would get the vinyl, re-record it, and then make loads of copies. So of course that's then an issue, because people are saying, well, what about the artist himself? Is he going to get the money from that? Are you trying to take from Africa? Because a lot of these reissue labels are European. So there is a stigma. And I think it's important to read into the reissue label first, make sure they are doing it ethically.
Yeah, again, intention, yeah.
Yeah, but it really helps you find music, especially the stuff from the 60s, 70s. I came across a guy, Mulatu Estake from Ethiopia. Amazing. I would never have found him if it wasn't for a reissue label, for example.
I think what's, I guess, maybe upsetting is that it's a shame that those reissue labels are not closer to home to the music.
Not African.
Yeah, exactly. Look at me trying to look
nice to
for
have
words.
more. It'd be nice.
Yeah, because I think, like, to be honest, like, for me, it's frustrating. Like, I completely agree with you. The discovery of music is amazing, and the fact that it's more accessible in terms of more people get to hear this music. But the frustration comes from the fact that these aren't, labels that come from these countries. But like it's such like a double-edged sword. For instance, like I'm talking shit now, but I've got an Analog Africa record ready to play. Like, so it's hard. Like Nathanael, I guess like even thinking about like the idea of like what you're doing and like is there a way you could almost like try and I guess connect with these places, like connect with the places where these people this music is coming from? Is there a way you feel like we could do more just to like reach out and like create real connection and tangible bridges between us here in the diaspora and the people in the countries where the music that we're playing come from?
I think it's just you said, I think there's a lot of reissued labels that do it correctly and do it right. I think one of the most beautiful things we have, and it's not vinyl, but just to bring artists here, to bring artists over. I think this is a really important thing for people to actually experience the culture and the music in its original place. I mean, when you think about that screw it, I mean white owned labels going to Africa and finding like and then bringing it back and say it does reek of like colonial vibes,
slightly
you know what I mean. So I mean, but I think the intention is key, and a lot of people will do it right. And hey, the majority of the time I'd rather have heard that record and want to hear that artist. I heard that reassured. I went to see Mulatto Coco recently. Incredible. I probably wouldn't be sitting there. A lot of people would be sitting there listening to that if that reissue hadn't happened.
Yeah. I just find it I feel like this is a bit that like I find really challenging, because like it's not only that in terms of like ethics, in terms of like ensuring the money goes to you, but Yinka, for instance, you were talking about like pressing new records, but then the environmental aspect of pressing new records as well, and the damage that does to the planet. So again, it's like and maybe this is more of a question that we leave with than like actually answer, but like a question for all of us. It's more like, what can we do to ensure that this like this thing that's growing and this beautiful scene, this beautiful culture can move forward in a way that feels fair, feels free. Like, what barriers can we pull down, because playing vinyl in and of itself is a barrier. I'm gonna like maybe stop being so pessimistic, and I'm just gonna ask like a very simple question, and I guess it'd be interesting to hear from you, Nathanael, because you're someone who you have John B. Market, but you also have Color Factory. What parties are better? The parties you go to where you see DJs play records, or the parties you go to where they're playing digitally?
You're trying to get me in trouble tonight.
Top spot.
Jesus Christ. The parties that play vinyl. The parties that play vinyl. If I had to, out of 100 parties here, 100 parties there, come in, yeah. I mean, it's as simple as that. I think there's a different element. DJs come with a different intention. They've sat there and they've gone through the records at home. Like, okay, what am I going to play? What am I playing tonight? And they sat there and they prepared their set differently. And you know that they've definitely done that. Not to say a lot of DJs don't sit there with their tractor or, and they go through and they say, okay, let me just select all this. And okay, good. Some DJs do that, but a lot of DJs show up and just, whoop, that's green, that's green, that's green. 120, go. So yeah, I love that. If I had to, pun intended, press delete on the USB, maybe I would.
Yeah, and Sheba, I guess you'd have to answer that question, but also like again, then think about radio. Like I've listened to some of your sets, and I'll share my own opinion, but I find like I can hear when you're playing records, for instance, and I can hear maybe it's bumpier to me, but like other people might think differently. Again, it'd be interesting to think firstly about parties, but then also about like playing. Like, what do you have more fun playing?
So I definitely have more fun playing records. For me personally, it's like very meditative. And again, like what you were saying, like even today, it was like making a point. Okay, I've got my whole collection, but today I'm going to bring. So again, yes, like you said, that intention. And I'm thinking of like, there's this one particular party, if you're into like, old school kind of jungle hardcore vibes, there's this party called Distant Planet, and all their DJs, well, the whole point of that event is that everyone only plays vinyl. And what's really cool, maybe as a fellow like enthusiast as well, is that that everyone there has like really worked on that type of craft. Because I don't want to say that using CDs is not like a craft in itself. Because actually one thing that I've realized as being someone who likes vinyl more is that if I'm playing at a party and maybe I'm not knowing how to use the effects or whatever, there's a crowd control, there's an entertainment element to it. And even like I noticed when you play vinyl, like I mix slower. So like in average, maybe I'm playing 17 tunes an hour versus somebody else. And so someone can say that's not entertaining, and that's fair enough. So that's why even when you said, what's better, it's like, it very much depends. But I know that I really appreciate seeing that, okay, this is someone that's like really put time and effort. Because like even I was like thinking, okay, but does your average like listener or somebody who's come to dance, maybe if they see me rock up and they see me with my record bag, the novelty might be, oh wow, she's playing records maybe for 5 minutes, but then okay, and then
start playing jungle and they walk out.
Yeah. Do you know exactly? So yeah.
And then I guess Yinka, and then maybe thinking more as an artist, but how would you prefer your music be listened to? And I guess one for you as well, Reuben, like how do you want someone like to be sitting down in a house, maybe a little jazz cigarette, leaning back on a leather sofa, the fireplace is on, there's like an amazing system, and like there's a big wooden like perfect record player, the needle drops and they hear maybe a Yinka song, or they just go on their phone and they hit play. Like, what's your preference?
Why did you say that?
What's your preference?
That was so descriptive. But for me, I don't think I can control it. To be honest, I can control how I want people to consume what I do. Only if I stop releasing music on streaming.
Would you?
Nah. I mean, nah. And I thought about that before, but I feel like streaming is very important. Like as much as we say vinyl and all of that, I feel like streaming is very important for accessibility because like it's just anybody can pick it up, they can do it. But I feel vinyl is just an extension. Like
Mm.
like uh this person finds this artist on wherever because honestly that's the most accessible way to like find music like on streaming. But like I feel like it's like a flow of they go on Spotify or whatever, they find this artist, then they like the album.
It's like an entry point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then they want to copy it or they want to buy it. And I don't think I can control it to be honest. However people want to consume it, they consume it that way.
Buy the vinyl because you make more money, obviously.
I mean everything is better than
Yeah.
just one
one
get it
cent.
from
Yeah.
So I would say that I can't really control it.
And Reuben, I guess like same. Like, do you have a similar?
Yeah, I don't
sentiment?
have a preference. Definitely, I think however you like to listen to music, you can. But I think as you're trying to say there, it has different purposes.
different.
You know, like streaming is accessible. You might be able to find out about the artist quicker. You know, it's nice to pop outside, put your headphones on, and listen. Like if I could carry a whole vinyl player
Would
and
you?
go in a
Would
bus,
you? Would
I
you?
probably would. That would be kind of crazy. But obviously you can't. You know, so it's nice for it to be on Spotify, on Apple. But also, like you said, sitting at home, someone listening to your music in a chill setting is also nice. There is no preference. I wouldn't say no.
And I guess like question for the audience as well. Like, is there a preference? Like, I guess hands up if you prefer listening to music on vinyl. Wow. Sure. Whoa. And then hands up if you prefer listening to music on digital.
I don't think you can compare.
Yeah.
So you
It's
guys-
not, you can't compare.
Yeah.
Like it's physical. One you can carry
Like
it.
when
you
you're
can-
at home, maybe ask like when
yeah.
you're
When,
at home.
when you're at home, you're sat by the fireplace.
Wouldn't
With the vinyl player.
Okay. When you're in a club, for instance, do you prefer the DJ playing vinyl? So hands up if you prefer the DJ playing vinyl. And then hands up if you prefer the DJ playing off like CDJs.
Derek, please don't pit this thing.
No,
I don't think. I don't think you can compare.
No, I agree. I just no, I agree. I just think it's also crazy because you realize like how many people like as a DJ you realize how many people actually don't care. Yeah, and like for me it's like it's the experience. Like I play records because I play better when I play vinyl versus I have more fun. I enjoy
define
the music
better.
more.
What do you mean by better?
I have more fun. I have more fun, and I think if I'm having more fun, the audience will have more fun, And I think like if I was like a bad boy on digital, like I could chop the chop. Like I think I'd have more fun. The audience would have more fun. So I think it's like it's not so black and white. I think it's the point that I'm trying to prove. But I think at this point, I'd also like to invite the audience to ask any questions they might have. I'll pass the mic around, so just put your hand up.
Yeah, guys, I love the panel talk. I have a question for all of you. But before I get to that, I do want to say also, Nathanael, Colours That Rise is one of my favorite bands ever as well. And I played at Jumbi and Moku before, so love the venues. But my question is about the liner notes in vinyls. That's not something that we spoke about, but to me, that's like one of the most important reasons why I like records. I remember when I was a teenager, I got We Out Here by Brownswood Recordings, and in there it talks about the history of why how UK jazz was inspired by Windrush, Brexit, etc. And then I remember even one of my first vinyls was Love Supreme, and I didn't realize until that point how much like Christianity and monotheism played a role in John Coltrane's music. And so I got a deeper connection to those albums through the stories that were told through the liner notes. So my question just for all of you is, what role do you think liner notes have played in your relationship with the vinyls that you spin? And what is maybe an album that has your favorite liner notes and just favorite packaging, storytelling around it?
I'll just repeat the question because I don't think they heard you. I think you said what was the importance of liner notes to each person, and then also what's their favorite liner notes.
Yeah, I can go first. For me, thank you for bringing it up. I think for me, when I started collecting, that was something that really I was very interested in. A lot of artists don't really do it again. Like these days. Just a few, like explain like the direction, um, even seeing the credits, seeing their full names, like seeing what it took to make that happen. I think for me, my favorite is the Jadu Sisters. So I found it somehow. Some guy, again in Nines, don't care. Some guy told me it was like, oh yeah, they want to sell a couple of records. Sorry, they want to throw a couple of records away, and they need someone to buy it. I say less. And it- what these guys were pricing these records for, like less than $1. And I saw the Lijadu Sisters one, and I opened it and I saw like the process, what they had to go through to make it, people that were involved in the projects as well. So yeah, I think artists should do that more, because I think that's one thing, uh, that can bring the fans closer to like, the process and all of that. Yeah.
I have. I'm gonna play it later. So I'm like gonna make a point of displaying it, and it's Bob Marley and the Wailers, but it's the live recordings of one of their shows. Either way, they've designed the whole cover so it looks like the front of a bus, and then the sleeves inside have like information. I think even lyrics, but the I don't know how to explain it. Like it's almost like a 3D project as well as an actual vinyl thing. So like that's really cool. And again, just the visual aspect and tying it all in. Because at the end of the day, art is not something. The way I see it now, art is not something that's just to like draw hard boundaries. Music, visuals, it all links. And I think even when I think about accessibility to like lyrics of tunes, before maybe we had those YouTube videos that people made, it would be those those lino sheets that you could actually sing along. And so that's really beautiful because you may listen and not really know, but then when you read it, it's poetry, right? So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for your kind words. Yeah, I think one of the things you probably think that heavily inspired by is Drexciya. So I don't know if anyone knows about Drexciya. Come on, come on, and this is like I guess political sort of fantasy world, absolutely incredible. One of the images is about enslaved people coming from Africa to like the New World, but on the ship they throw some of the people off the ship, and some of the then enslaved people, when they go underwater, the pregnant women, when they go down into under the sea, the babies are born, and there's this I guess utopic world. But it just the fantasy of that is just incredible, and this is one of the things that's heavily touched me, and yeah, I absolutely love it. But check out Drexciya, amazing if you have not.
Yeah, so it's a good question. I love liner notes. I find it really insightful. You get to learn a lot about an artist or a band. And if I had to pick the one, it's my family are part of a band called Osibisa from the 60s. And because it's my uncles, seeing them when they're younger, seeing their photos, seeing the conversation, seeing what they had to say at that time, it's rare. You don't really get that opportunity. So liner notes are really important.
I'll take another question. I might have to get up and like walk, I think.
Thank you, guys. I'm actually asking this question as somebody who's interested in releasing work on vinyl. Most of the work we've got now is on digital. One of our biggest worries has been, well, I'm from South Africa, so the work is produced in South Africa. The biggest thing that South African artists are having a problem with is that we don't have a direct access to the presses. Most of the pressing happens in Europe, and it's only, I think, is it Matsuri and Shermans, and those are like old guys, and maybe I may be wrong in saying this, likely to be white. And
You're not wrong for saying that.
Yeah,
it's just a fact.
Yeah. So how do we, are there, black, pressing outfits in other parts of the world that we can be in conversation with, or people who have got a direct distribution link or a manufacturing link that we can trust? Because the other issue is that trust is a big thing in music, because it's your work that you've invested so much in, and you don't want your work for you to only get 10% of it, where 9% is sold without you knowing. How do you make sure that whatever that it's been produced, if it's 100 units, it's 100 units, there's no other units that exist elsewhere? So that's one question. The second one is, I spoke to one of the artists who was against vinyl releases because he says they don't sound the same in the new work because the way the music is recorded. So in the old records, you'd use purely analog sounds, and you wouldn't, and essentially you can't fit, what you produce on a CD, you can't necessarily fit now on a vinyl. So it was the style of recording actually, or the technical recording format, and also how much you can fit into a vinyl. So those two questions. But the first one is most important because I'm interested in having a direct link with a manufacturer that I can trust. Yeah.
I can answer the first one a little bit. There's a record shop in Peckham called Planet Wax.
Planet Wax.
Yeah. And they have an in-house dub plate cutting, machine. However, the only issue with that is that when you cut dubs, they're not designed to play for as long as when you cut vinyl. But at least, that is like, those are people who they have, they've started that business again with intentional community in mind, like the people that run it, Dexter and Sick Note, that's their DJ names. Like, I know them well. And so that's like an actual direct someone where you could maybe even reach out to them and then be like, okay, you do dub plates. And the whole point is that when you play dub plates, I've got dub plates I can still play now, but they're not as good a quality. Like the groove is not as deep, I think is the main thing, right? But that might at least be people that you could then ask. That's the first question.
Yeah, I find it like extremely frustrating that the answer is almost like, I don't know if any of us can answer the any.
They're white.
Yeah, like
Nah.
yeah, like
Trustworthy, but why?
yeah.
Nah. I think we have a customer here.
Yeah, like yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
yeah.
for Egwú, last time I was around, I was going around. Me and Ori, one day we sat down and we're going through like distributors, and luckily we found someone. I won't lie, when the guy called me for like a meeting, I was expecting to meet a white guy, and I just met like a black guy, and he's cool and he's trustworthy as well. He's pressed a lot of records out here. We're going to work with him for a project, but we didn't do that again. But I can assure you that it will be fair. It will be fair, and it's relatively affordable. And this, I think, one of the problems is always that quantity. Distributors always require that you make like a lot of quantities, but these guys, we could do like quantities. Yeah, and I would come each year up like after this. We can talk after regarding regarding like quality. I don't really know, to be honest. I feel in this day, what artists usually do is you have to remaster it. So what the engineers would do before, so there's a version they release for streaming, and the engineer will remaster another version for vinyls, so it sounds better. Usually that's how like it's better to do it. So if for instance, like what you want to do, if you still have your engineer, if he has like the data and stems, he just needs to remaster it um for vinyls to like maintain that quality. But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, don't forget how difficult the process is to actually put a song onto vinyl. So even if someone is doing it for you, they're not gonna mess around because it will cost them a lot. So yes, like you're saying, there are some places that I'm sure we could all recommend. But even if you were to find a place that no one had recommended to you, they're not going to mess around with your product because it costs them a lot of money to make it. It's a long process. It's a nice process. They have to send you a test copy first to make sure that you're happy. There's a lot of room to maneuver before you can be completely happy with your purchase. So to ease your concerns, I would say quite a lot of vinyl pressing places are to be trusted. because it's an expensive business to run. So they're going to want to make sure that your product is good. And in terms of the sound quality one, it's a debate which is the best type of sound. A lot of people would say vinyl, but the guy that mentioned to you about the difference between analog and digital, he's completely correct. It is a different process, but like you said, the remastering process is crucial. And also, it's not a case of it sounding better, it's just different. So at the time, the music was made on analog that suited vinyl, but now there is a way that you can master the tunes to vinyl and it still has the same amazing sound.
I think just to answer your second question as well, because I feel a bit more romantic about it. I do think there's a difference in terms of like, you know, the music you hear on vinyl now versus music that you did hear on vinyl. And there's a archivist, Walter45, who I highly encourage you to check out his work, and he talks about like the idea of records capturing the atmosphere, capturing the vibe of you know, these environments where this music was created. I think there's more history in records, and I think because of that, your brain almost gets slightly more sentimental when you listen to this music. Like, I listen to music with context. So, for instance, I like to know where it was recorded. I like to know the motivations. I like to know what was happening. Like, High Life is a perfect example of that. Like, you know, High Life is, you know, the workers' music. Like, you know, across West Africa, this was like, it captured like the vibe of the joints. It captured the vibe of the local areas. Like, it's amazing. I think I'll take one more question from the audience and then Mike. Yeah.
Hi, I was just gonna ask, because you guys spoke a lot about like memories and sounds, but when I buy records, I strictly think about the cover. I don't really think about what it's gonna sound like. I just think about what does this look like. And I remember when I saw Kendrick's Good Kid, Mad City, because I listened to the album way before I saw the record.
Yeah, I have that one too.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? And when I saw the record, because obviously he shot it as like a Polaroid, right? And when you see the actual record cover and the way it's like, the way the images are inside, it really like makes it concrete the fact that the album is a snapshot of his life, like literally a snapshot of what happened in Compton for him. And for me, it's then just thinking for you guys, just like strictly judging a book by its cover. What are your favorite records just based on what it looks like? Not what it sounds like, not the music, but just the actual cover itself.
But have you never been like disappointed, like you've bought something? I've done that once actually. I bought something that was really pretty and I was like, and now it's just collecting dust. But you don't mind, like? Okay, fair enough.
Nah, me, I can't answer, man.
Yeah, I think it's too superficial a question.
No, but fair enough, because as we said, like it is part. And again, going back to the psychology of humans and like not trying to overcomplicate things. You know, when someone designs the art cover, they are thinking that, okay, what's gonna make it stand out, or do I want to put my face on it, or like you know. But yeah, I can't think of, or maybe someone else can answer. But I can't think of like one that I bought just for that.
I could just mention like shit ones, like the ones I bought just for the cover and ended up being
That's
bad.
the thing. I think I just can't remember. I think I can't remember their names. That's
exactly,
the problem.
Yeah. I think it's like it's too tough a question.
Oh, actually, colored vinyls.
Colored vinyls, colored vinyls.
That's a thing where, like where the vinyl itself will be colored. So like often now, especially like within the electronic scene, that's where I'm seeing that more of. So they'll make a point of being like the black one is this much, and then the colorful one is a bit more. That's an incentive.
It's the wrong question to ask.
Mine is like more of a comment, really. Maybe a question after, but I think I've been thinking over the past couple of weeks about how I consume music, and I've just been really, really worried because it's become more and more challenging over the years to listen to whole bodies of work. And I feel like vinyls will give me that, because I used to think before, like, particularly people that didn't have vinyl players but collected vinyls, and I'd go to their houses and it would still be covered in the plastic. I used to think it was quite pretentious. But I'm thinking more and more about how important it is to have like to be more intentional about the way I consume music, and again just listening to whole bodies of work and reminding me like what my like favorite projects are. But yeah, that was just a comment really. But my question is like, what are your sort of like desperate like wish list? What's at the top of your wish list? Like, what's a vinyl that like, you're desperate to have?
It's like two opposite questions.
I think just before answering that question, when you spoke about listening to whole bodies of work, and actually going back to the other question about, well, the comment about Good Kid, Mad City, what's really cool about that project is it makes sense when you listen to it the whole way through because of the voice, the voicemails. Yeah, exactly. In between, so that is actually like Kendrick did, and the design team, whatever, did very well in terms of that. What's one record that I really want? And why?
I'm gonna go back to Drexciya for me. I'm trying to get.
Oh, you have it.
No. But I don't have the entire body, the collector's education. So you have one instead of the encyclopedia, and then I need the rest. I need like letters X to Z. So I'm missing one of those, and I think it's there's a story within that one album, but there's a whole story between the albums as well. So I think to collect that bibliography of Drexciya, that's what I haven't done that yet.
For me, I think mine is Atakak. Yeah. That guy's crazy, man. Yeah, that one. I think it's just in CD. I think is it in cassette or CD?
It's a cassette only, but
Yeah.
Analog Africa.
Yeah.
Awesome Tapes from Africa.
Oh, they have it?
Yeah, they published it, yeah.
Ah, real.
It was cassette, so just for context, Obasima, like this amazing Ghanaian hip-hop, electro, house type guy, released music that he thought was shit, like he thought was bad. It stayed within his friends and family, and then I think 2015, Awesome Tapes from Africa, we released it on vinyl, but even still very limited copies, so it's still very expensive. So.
I need to play for you guys, man. Let me just play so you guys will get you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
So when did he make this music originally?
Came out in the 90s, and he thought it was shit. He only released like 50 tapes, and like gave it to his friends and family, and then like the guy from Awesome Tapes just found it in America, and then we released it. This is crazy also. This is a vinyl panel, and we're meant to be talking about records.
I was ready for him to start singing, but yeah. If I was gonna get Atakak.
I'd say mine is any Fela Kuti record. I'm like I have like something obsession with not buying re-releases, which is quite embarrassing. But like I really want to own the originals, and Fela is so expensive. I only have the Ginger Baker record, but I want I want Zombie on record, I want ITT on record, I want like the OGs, but like they're so pricey. But like I could fantasize about what it'd be like to own and play these records, but I'm not gonna go there. And then I don't think you've answered actually, Sheba.
Yeah, I couldn't.
You couldn't? Wow! You don't have
I think
top
again,
of the wish list.
Going back to the fact that I don't necessarily shop on Discogs and then therefore have like a wish list tray, and that later on, I guess in my DJ career, people will send me stuff, but otherwise I'll go to the shop and then be like, oh, I recognize that name, and then listen to it. So I think it's because of the way in which I approach vinyl to begin with, Yeah.
And do you have one, Reuben? Yeah.
If there's a song I really want, it's probably digital first. I don't really have a wish list. It's more like a luxury item. It's like, okay, now that I really like the song, okay, I might get it on vinyl.
Thank you for that wonderful question, and thank you all for listening. And I'd like to, take a minute to just thank all the special guests who sat here in front of us. Like, you've been so wonderful to talk to and share so much insight and so much knowledge that I've learned from, and I hope you all have learned from. I don't think we need any last words other than maybe keep buying vinyl, keep buying records, keep listening to records. Go to John B, go to Moko, check out Reuben's radio show. Make sure you go to Sheba's sets. Make sure you listen to Yinka's music. Please also listen to my radio show as well, Balami. But thank you so much for listening. We're going to have music next with actually Sheba, myself, Diga Visan, and George also playing as well. They're somewhere here, and maybe Kai is going to play as well. Yeah. And there's also merch available as well. Lovely, lovely t-shirts with that
Yeah,
amazing
the design
artwork.
is sick.
The design is sick. I wish my name was on it, but it's not. But yeah, thank you so much. I hope you can stay and enjoy the music. Thank you for listening.